there was a period of time when pop-up ads were a scourge of the internet, and now most browsers just block pop-ups by default, and consumers hate pop-up ads, and so they stopped being used on all mainstream sites and so on. So if the ads that people are doing are intrusive and annoying, then it tends to push people to install ad blocking software. But if the ads are relevant and not too annoying and show up at a time when they make sense, then people won't block them. And so I'm not worried about some apocalyptic decline of ad-supported websites because everybody blocks the ads. I just don't think that's likely to happen.
Do you think it's an Apple attack on Google's search revenues?
That's a really good question. You would never say, well, why would Apple do such a thing if they think it's to their advantage? I'm sure that they will have done it. I'm not sure. It's a good question. I don't know if it came primarily from consumer demand or if it came primarily from that. It's hard to say.
Anyone and everyone can contribute to Wikipedia. They can write on the encyclopedia pages. But that also means that it's not always factually correct. I read on your own Wikipedia page that in the early days, you were so concerned about this open ed policy that you used to get up in the middle of the night and monitor and log in and see what people were writing.
True,
Is that true? And how did you ever get to resolve that?
Well, so in the early days, we're talking a handful of people editing, and mostly during sort of extended U.S. time zones. And I would worry what happens when the people in the last time zone go to bed, and are the Australians going to behave themselves overnight?
So what, you were
like
getting
that.
up and like, oh
yeah,
my
just
God,
check,
I can't
just
believe
check.
they've written that.
It might take a few minutes just to check. Turned out it wasn't a big issue. We never really had a huge problem, and as it turns out, one interesting thing about communities, if the software is right and if it's done right, communities inherently scale. So the more people you have on the community monitoring each other, then, well, what if a lot of people come on from Australia in the middle of the night when I'm asleep? Well, they'll look after each other, and so that's kind of the Wikipedia principle.
Do you have any fears or concerns about the future in your industry?
Yeah, I mean, there are things that I think we all need to keep an eye on. I'm concerned about this increasing idea of local internet sovereignty. So when you hear the Chinese or the Russians talking about the need for sovereignty over their own internet, what they really mean is they want more ability to control and manipulate the internet for their own advantage.
You've spoken a lot about cybersecurity. It's been documented that you've got a lot of views on that, and we're all familiar with claims made by the likes of Ed Snowden, for example. In light of that, do you think anyone can ever really expect any information they put online to remain private in any capacity?
Well, I think we have a really strong interest in trying really hard, but on a personal level, I always recommend to people assume that anything that you put into digital format is vulnerable.
Even if it's a text, a WhatsApp message?
Yeah, I mean, just assume. It's the safest thing to do. It's sort of like, it's excessive, but it's sort of like I have an assumption that if I see a mushroom growing in the wild, it's probably going to kill me if I eat it. Not completely true, but I don't have the expertise to know. People should reflect on it. They should think about it, and they should understand that the biggest potential attack vector you might have is probably not the NSA. It's your friend forwarding the email that you shouldn't have written, and that sort of thing. And so, behaving yourself online is always a good idea.
Do you think the government is quite naive when it comes to encryption and security?
I see governments not understanding technology very well, and so they assume there are policy options on the table which don't exist. And to say ban end-to-end encryption is like saying let's ban math, because it's very straightforward mathematics. The software's already out there, freely shared online. You can't ban it. It's just not going to happen. So that's not a policy option. So anybody who proposes that as a policy option, you immediately know, oh, actually, you don't know anything about technology. Like, you have no idea what you're talking about. So
what can the government do? Because they need to be able to spy on potential terrorists?
Well, I mean, there are things they can do. Good old-fashioned police work. It's sort of, the world hasn't changed as much as they would like us to think they have. The bad guys have always managed to talk to each other in private. Go for a walk in Hyde Park and have a private conversation, and that's always been possible and always will be. And as we have different levels of security online, the bad guys will always gravitate to secure technologies, and it just means that just a fact of reality, just as the police can't know what you say in your living room at home to your friend, they can't know what you say just because your friend's across town and you've texted using a secure chat app. So it's overblown. The need for this has been much overblown.